Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning. Very, 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 very happy to be here. My name is Doyinsola Ajayi. I lead strategy and planning at Events Architects. And this morning we have such an interesting and a wonderful conversation for you guys this morning. Joining me, I have Franklin Ozekhome. Hi, Franklin. I also have Elizabeth Ofili. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Hi, guys. Can you just wave?
Yes, sure thing.
Hi,
Okay,
good
Hi,
morning.
everyone.
awesome.
Good morning.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, fantastic. So we're supposed to have Ruth Senaya with us as well, but Ruth is just having a little challenge with her internet, but she's going to join us as we progress. So I'm just going to do a little introduction of our guest here. So Franklin Ozekhome is the Group Director for Strategy and Digital at Insight Publicis. He's also the creative mind behind Think Africa and Be School, which is a strategy and innovation academy for marketing and creative professionals. Hi, Franklin, you're welcome once again.
Thanks very
Elizabeth
much.
here is the creative ambassador and founder of the Creative Concierge, which is a luxury lifestyle investment brand. Elizabeth has over 8 years experience in corporate communications, and she'll be here to, dish out all her marketing goodness, I mean, from the client side. Hi again, Elizabeth.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Dane.
Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick, do we have, okay, we're supposed to have Ruth, but she'll just join us during the course of our conversation. So our topic for today is building a sound client agency relationship. Now, I will just give you guys a little, background information as to why I decided on this topic. So I was having a conversation with a client about 2 weeks ago, and he was going on and on about how agencies are not reliable. There's so many agencies now, and he just feels like, agencies are not, they're not as dedicated as they used to be. Now, for me, as someone who's worked on both client side and agency side, I can say to him, okay, have you put in structures in place to actually make sure that your agencies deliver? Anyway, so we're going to get into all the juicy details. But before we start, I'm going to ask Elizabeth and Frankie, right? So, in order to have a sound relationship, I mean, there has to be a relationship in the first place. So, Franklin, let's start with you, right? How important is it to build a relationship in business? How important are relationships in business?
Um, I think is the core factor that actually binds, the agency and the client together. So relationship is actually the key instrument for everything. Even when the business is not doing too well in terms of commercial success, either from the client's end, and they are either back and forth in terms of remuneration or fees, is that relationship becomes the glue that puts everything together. So I think it's very important to always have a good chemistry with your clientele and vice versa, which is why these days we don't have what we call a chemistry pitch. Besides all of the services, the number of people you have, the kind of competencies you've built over the years, clients actually ask, invite you for a chemistry meeting. Usually it starts off as the first thing. They want to know if they can bind with you, they connect with you on the kind of level. They usually ask for the core team that would work on that account, not necessarily the C-suite or the directors on the account or the owners of the business. If I bring this business into your agency, who would I likely be working with? Can I see them? Can I meet them? Oh, I would like to meet the account manager. Oh, that's the head of strategy. And this guy will be doing my art and copy. We'll have to engage for like 20, 30 minutes. What's your background? What's inciting you? What's inspiring you? And then they take their notes. Sometimes you invite them over so that they feel some want. Where we're doing things virtually, then you share and interact and share some perspectives or case studies you've worked. They use that as a key, score for selecting agencies these days. So relationship is very, very important. When you hear there's been a client for over 5, 6, 7 years, that is these days that's rare. So you can be
Yes.
sure that it's relationship that's keeping that thing together. When the chips are down, there's that kind of one engagement that brings people. And I think that's very key because at the end of the day, we're all humans. You have the things you need to take on your end. I have the things I need to address on my end. So if I can come from your own perspective and where the client cap and you where the agency hat, then we begin to see things from our perspectives and relationship becomes so much stronger.
Fantastic. So I love the idea of chemistry pitch, right? So I mean, I've been on the client side and I've been on agency side as well, and I know how important it is to have a chemistry pitch. So a lot of times people just think, oh, I want to meet the management. It's not the management who's going to be working on your accounts, right? You need to have a seamless relationship. That glue is very, very important. I'll come to you, Elizabeth, because you have always been on the client side, right? So
Yeah.
tell us, I mean, how important is it to have or build a solid relationship?
I think, like Franklin said, it's literally the glue that holds the partnership together. I think on the client side, with the agencies that we've worked with, precisely what Franklin said, you get the agencies to come in, you get them to meet the team. For us, all the agencies the company that I worked with previously, we had the agencies come in every week. They sat with us. They understood how we work. They understood each individual personality. It gave us a chance to understand them as well. And it just sort of really helped the relationship. So obviously we're all human beings, mistakes will be made, briefs will be incorrect, work would not be appreciated and things like that. But having that relationship, it made such a huge difference, and it takes a while for you to build that. So there was a huge change when we had that integration in the workplace with the agency and the clients, and it literally changed absolutely everything. It changed the way that work was done. So I do think that it's very important. You can even go as far as sort of hanging out with your agency. So we did those things as well. I think that's one of the key, on a personal level, because it sort of brings up, it creates a sort of respect and friendship between the client side and the agency side. And I think the work that you then deliver is incredible based on that.
I absolutely love what you said, because for me, it goes beyond just work, right? So you've brought in the personal element to things. So it's great that, we come to work, we send each other emails, with my work and all that stuff. But then what about doing TGIF, right? What about, oh, let's go and have a drink, right? So there needs to be a synergy. And if I hear both of you correctly, it's teamwork. And it's not something that is built overnight. It takes time. So I think that's one key point that we need to take away from this already, that relationships take time, and relationships, building strong relationships takes a team. It's not just one person, right? So I can see Ruth. Hi, Ruth. Can you
Hi,
hear
sorry.
us? I'm sure if you can, just wave. But I'm going to direct this question to Elizabeth. So when, as the client, right, what is important to you when hiring?
Oh, sorry, you broke up there. I didn't catch the
Okay.
last part.
I think Bruce is still having internet. Okay. So I said, as a client, right, what is important to you when hiring an agency? What do you look out for?
As a client, it would definitely be a brand fit. I think that's the most important thing. I don't know that you necessarily have to work with the best agencies in the world, but I do think that you have to work with an agency that not just meets your expectations, but understands your brand values, and are able to sort of match match that, um, so you can synergize and sort of work together. Wow, I think we've lost Doyin.
Okay, well, I mean, I hope you can hear me now. Um, Apologies for the interruption, internet issues.
Hi guys, can you hear me? I'm back. For some very strange reason, I think my internet tripped up. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, so can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Okay, sorry. So I asked a question. I don't know if you heard my question. So I said, as a client, right? What's important to you when hiring an agency?
Okay, so I'll just take your question again. I actually continued when you logged off, but I was sort of speaking to the fact that, uh, for me, I think the most important thing is a brand fit.
Oh, apologies.
That's fine. I think the most important thing is a brand fit, sort of making sure that you match the right agency to the right company or to the right brand, so that you can basically create magic. I think that that is the most important thing. Franklin spoke earlier about chemistry, and I think it's pretty much the same. That's that whole idea of making sure the puzzle fits, making sure the parts fit, and then you're just able to create great work. You need to sort of both be aligned on what the end goal is, and just sort of be in sync and both be on the same page about what the expectations are and what objectives you're trying to meet. So there are no surprises, um, whatsoever. So I think key is brand fit.
Hmm. Fantastic. So frankly, let me ask you, right? Elizabeth talks about brand fit. Does brand fit only, does it only, is it just the client? Or do you need, I mean, as an agency, does your brand need to fit? I mean, does the client need to fit your brand as well?
Yes. To be fair, I don't think we've done much of that these days, but I think that's actually the right way to go. In the pursuit for revenue and billings and trying to meet targets, virtually any agency will work with any client that comes in through the door. But I think that's not fair, even on the clientele, because they just become an account on the side and they feel, neglected. I think right from the get-go, the agency should have a vision in terms of the kind of clientele, the kind of businesses, and the kind of people they want to work with. That's why we have, the whole brand acculturation programs. You don't only do it for clients, you have to do it for yourself as well. The kind of talent you bring in, the kind of services you offer, the kind of the direction you set for yourself, everyone has to be attuned towards that goal and that vision. And you now deliberately go out to look for those kind of clients. And if someone or a client, an individual, an organization that doesn't fit, and I'm not saying they are doing anything wrong, perhaps they are conglomerates and you want to focus on SMEs and startups, you have to tell the client, I'm sorry, we do not have that skill. We love your business, but I can recommend A, B, and C. I don't think any client agency does that. And that's not fair. So that's the truth, because I understand everybody needs to make their target. I think, to be fair, you need to have, the kind of clients you want to pursue, and you tell them, I think they will respect you so much more if you do that as well, and vice versa. Because from the get-go, when clients send their RFPs, They tell you these are the kind of agencies they want to work with. They want to work with a small agency, or they want to work with a big size agency with a global network, or they want to work with a youth driven organization, or an organization that is focused on telecoms and understands the mobile market. So like I said, it has to be also cut across for you to have a very dynamic, interesting and rewarding relationship.
Hi, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, sorry. I was saying just to while
Yes,
we
we
wait
can.
for doing get back. So I was saying just to also align with what you said, Franklin. There are some agencies, for example,
Yeah.
that would clients that would need a particular technology, maybe futuristic actions on their brief. And then at that point, maybe that agency doesn't have that capacity. But then, like you said, people need the money. So they'll just tell you, oh, we'll do it. And then some agencies will now go behind and try and get some people together just because, oh, you have to run a business and you have to make money.
Let me add to that. I think it's okay to have collaborations if you are tuned to that business and you want to work on it. You don't have to have all of the talents or resources in house. In these days, it's cross collaboration, and I think it's fair to also tell the clientele right that way. But if they want everything to go through you, you can have your creative shop. You can work with production outside the agency. You can work with those that are doing the architectural side. You can bring in vendors and suppliers that will help you activate and implement the process while you monitor and measure and evaluate and track. That is fair. What we need to do more is you don't have to work on every business, and it's fair to set that from the get go. Like telling the client from outset, we don't do this particular kinds of business. We don't work on tobacco. We don't. We only work with SMEs with a budget of about 30 to 35 million naira. We only take a revenue of 5 million to 7 million naira per month. You can lay all of those skills and you stick to it. You'll have the hard knocks. Some clients will not want to work with you, some will do, but you have to be truthful to your own mission. You can't, right from the get-go, tell your team, we're going to pursue the conglomerates. And then down the line, an SME comes in and you bring him in and you neglect them and you put one account on the side and the guy feels, I don't feel I'm not feeling you guys anymore. I think that's enough. I think you tell the guy, look, we only work with this kind of budget, we only work with this exercise, but we can direct you to do this, and of course advise them, because at the end of the day, we're all consultants. You have to be fair. If you go to a hospital, it's not every this thing that they will treat. They'll tell you we only do certain kinds of illnesses or diseases, and we will refer you to this general practitioner over here. But you tell the person from the get-go, and the person understands what he or she is expecting, and they love you more. When they're ready for you, and vice versa, they'll come back.
Yeah, but Franklin, you mentioned earlier that agencies in Nigeria don't do that. So how do you think, what steps do you think the agencies need to take to get there? So for me, I think that's perfect. In fact, I have more respect for an agency who comes out and says XYZ, and if they're able to recommend me to the type of agency that I'm looking for, then that's great. But I don't think that I don't think there's any agency. In fact, it's the Nigerian culture to say yes to everything and then figure out how we sort of handle it. And like you said, the relationship suffers, the account suffers, and it's obvious that they're being neglected.
Yeah.
So how does an agency balance doing that and getting revenue at the same time?
Yes, I think it's one key thing. We need to have specialization, go into specialization. I understand the whole thing about integrated marketing communications. You do PR, you do AD, you do digital and everything. Because at the end of the day, you're providing a solution. But I think we'll get to a world where you have to be specialists at the core of what you do. And for example, we have agencies in New York and in Japan that are focused on retail. All they do is e-commerce and retail advertising. If Mercedes-Benz comes there with 100 billion naira budget, I'm sorry. The MD will say, I'm sorry. I love your business, but I can't. When you have an e-commerce business, let's talk strategy. We need to be able to socialize. Every agency, at least most of the agencies that I'm aware of, offer integrated marketing communications. A digital agency setup offers integrated marketing communications. A PR firm offers integrated marketing communications, and then they do PR. Of course, I understand where that's coming from. But you need to say, I do reputation management. I don't do creative advertising, but I have a partner that works on this thing. Would you like me to recommend you? So I don't start up and fail. And if the client likes that, fine. If he says, no, I want a core professional to work on my business. So, and if you look at the value chain, the marketing communications value chain, there are a whole lot of specialties that we can go into. You know, from the up level, we have the upstream level, we have, you know, business strategy, marketing planning, trying to dissect what's happening in the market, category definition. From the midstream, you have the brand strategy, you know, creating unique connections with the consumer, trying to understand trends and amplify them, you know, AI marketing and all of that stuff. And in the downstream, you have activations, events, all of the things that now bring those the thinking and the planning to life. You know, whether it's advertising, the TV, the radio, the online. So where do you fall in? I understand as a professional, you have to understand what's going on from top to bottom, but you have a core. You know, again, using the hospital as an example, you have specialists, those that do, you know, focus on, you know, pregnancy, or those that focus on bone structures. But there's a general manager that understands everything about illness. And when you come in and says, we love this, but I'll refer you to a clinic down the road. But for your ailment, let me give you this right now. You can pay for that. But I think for your proper treatment and your surgery, you need to go 1, 2, 3. So I am going back to you, because I think that's the best way we can approach it. And then you have your own way of earning based on that. You have a model that fits that model. And I think agencies will succeed.
But can I ask a question, right? And I'm going to be so blunt here, and I want us to be as open as possible.
We'll try to.
well, Franklin has to be very careful. But anyway, Franklin, let me ask you: have you ever been fired, right, by a client? Has a client ever fired your agency?
Yes. They have. Yes, it has happened.
Can I know why? Can I know why your agency was fired? Can I know why they fired your agency?
And I didn't even think you would ask this question, but come to think of it, was something like that. It was a fintech business. Sharp, brilliant guys in their 20s and 30s. They're all about, you know, they're focused on product development. So everything, they take an issue, they resolve it. We came from, you know, the service mentality. I'll take your distance. While I'm thinking about it, the guy is like, 3 days, 4 days, I need to get this, I need to get on strike, otherwise I'm going to launch my product. So we were doing work on the back end, but we were using a business model that was not in tandem with the fintech. What we were doing was okay with the you know, the conglomerates, the multinationals, and other business we were used to. But for that particular they had a team of maybe 7 people. Their budget wasn't that large, but we really wanted the business because we knew where that industry was going to. But we're not ready with that business model at that time. Within 3 months, we were fired. And in fact, I loved we were fired fast. And the guy wasn't tolerating it because, again, the approach was, I'm sorry, it's not working. I sent you a mail by text. We're gone. Please, we need to work with by text. I'll show you this by text. Of course, the mail came later. But what we learned a lesson from that, and you know, quickly, you know, reviewed our structure. Again, going back into play that I think we took things for granted. Had the management discussion. Are these the clients we want to pursue now? And if we do, what we need to ask why. I think that's one of the things we don't. Why should I pursue these clients? Why do I need the business? The same thing with the client. Why do I need to work with this brand or this agency?
Yeah.
And if we do that, like I said, it cuts off a lot of unnecessary headaches, heartaches, and all of the things that we go through.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And Ruth, I'm going to shake a few tables, right? So I know Ruth has worked in an agency where they fired the clients. In fact, they didn't even, I don't even think they sent an email. I don't think they sent an email. It was just, oh, I think they sent a brief. You know what, Ruth, tell us about that. Why did the agency fire the client? What was the problem?
Okay, so at the time, the agency was growing fast, and we were trying to manage even those that we had like from day one, because in trying to pursue newer clients, you should not forget to take care of the old clients as well. So, and then this particular client, there was a lot of briefs were coming in, we're trying to manage it. For one brief, you could go in for a meeting like 3 or 4 times. It just wasn't, the chemistry really wasn't there, to be honest. And we just said, okay, are we here for the money or are we here to make impact? So what is it for us? And we just felt really the money is not really what we're holding to, is about making impact. And then we just had to make that decision. We had a conversation with the clients and we're like, it's not working. The what we agreed at the beginning is getting really confusing and it's just not working out. So we agree to disagree, and that was it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So let me just say, right? I was I was part of I was working at the client's. Then I was working at the client side. So Ruth fired me. So yeah, that was very interesting. Okay. So Elizabeth, Ruth said something that is very interesting, right? So she said, she talked about briefs. So, I've worked in agencies, and one of our core problems is not being briefed properly. Not being briefed properly. How can clients help agencies such that they help them to deliver properly? Because the briefing aspect is so important. So how can clients, do better at briefing?
So as a client, I am going to say that the agency is responsible for receiving the brief, how they best interpret it. It's not the client's objective. It's not the client doing the work. It's not the client's problem. I have a brief or I have a project and the agency is to deliver. So it is the onus is on the agency to figure out how they interpret that brief. And one of the ways that I think works from past experience is for each agency we go into, they give us a template on how to receive the briefs. Even working in-house with a couple of different graphic designers, everybody has different styles. Some people require you to literally just hand them the copy and they will deliver a whole project. Some people don't want any direction whatsoever. Some people want you to send them samples of, there's so many different ways. Different people work in different ways. And if the agency is not able to direct you on how to deliver the brief, that issue is that agency doesn't, I'm sorry, that the agency does not know what they're doing.
Love it.
Once the brief is done, it's not just by email. You need to have meetings, you need to have telephone calls, you need to come in and dissect this brief, make sure you guys are both on the same page. But for me, because the agency is the one who's actually going to take out that work, it becomes their own problem.
Franklin, do you have something to say? Because Elizabeth said something. She said that the agencies, the responsibility is on the agencies to sort of guide the clients on how to brief. Do you agree with that? Oh, I'm not sure we can. Can we hear from Franklin? I'm not sure we
No,
can
we
hear
can't.
you.
Oh, frankly, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you were muted.
Yes,
All right,
please.
great. I said 5 years ago I would have challenged what she said, but in today's age, seeing what's going on at the fast-paced world, yes. You know why? Because the brief is our at the agency is like your how would I put it? It's like your juice. It's what drives everything end to end. The brief, if you unpack it properly, is your revenue for the month. It's what drives business. So the agency from itself first have to understand how to unpack a brief. It's good to share a template, but not everything can go into the briefing, which is why it's called a brief. Give me some details so I can understand where you're coming from. But it's the one-on-one engagement, whether virtually or physical interaction, checking out their website, going to the market, understanding what the client is saying and not saying, checking their annual reports, looking at their competition, and then going for that meeting after the brief to unpack the brief. Because following discussions with the clientele, you find out that sometimes the brief could be not necessarily wrong, but it's not probably hasn't covered all of the things. So the client might tell you it's digital and PR. And because you've analyzed, you say, I'm sorry, it's your product. I say, why? Because it's this, it's this, it's this. Oh, I get where you're coming from. So I have to work on the product. Yes. Do you work on product? Yes. Extra revenue. Okay, help me to the product. Or give me 1 month, give me 2 weeks, let me go fix my product. Now, the client might also say, don't worry about that, just go do the digital brief. But at least you've clarified from client.
Yes.
You said we should do 1, 2, 3, and you agree we should do 1, 2. Yeah, it's fine. Then I'll go do it. But I'm not going to do it down the line. I say, Franklin, you noticed that our product wasn't fine. That's why we're not having a return. Then there's going to be an argument. I think we need to do the briefing.
Fantastic. So
Yes, you wanted to say something?
this is how you know you're speaking to a director, because every single thing he says is talking about the bottom line. He's talking about revenue. And I think that is so important for every single person that works in an agency. So whether you're the copyist or you're the social media person or whoever you are, right? I think it's so important to always remember that doing your part affects the bottom line of the company. Because if you don't do your copy well, guess what? The client is not going to be happy, and the clients can walk away from that. And guess what? You don't get paid. So I think that is an attitude that every single person in an agency needs to have. You always need to think about the bottom line all the time, right? Okay, so Ruth, Elizabeth, let me ask you a question and then I'll go to Ruth. So there are times when clients would say, oh, there's a brief, agency A, agency B, agency C, come and pitch, right? And then they come to pitch. And then at the end of the day, you pick idea 1, idea 2, idea 3, and then give it to agency D to execute. I can tell you for a fact that agencies absolutely hate that, because they feel that their intellectual property has been stolen. Yeah. So what happens? Why does that even occur in the first place? Why do clients take different ideas from different agencies without letting them know that they're going to take those ideas and then go to a completely different? Is there a reason for that?
Daylight robbery. I really can't. I can't speak to that, because I hope that the organization that I worked for, or as a client myself, we set up a system. I think it's best to set up a system where it's fine to it's fine to like the ideas of all these different agencies, and it's also fine to not necessarily work with them. But I think what needs to be done is, obviously, you need transparency and you need honesty. And you can literally, you don't necessarily have to work with the agency, but there should be some sort of fee for the idea that they presented that you want to use. So you're not going to pay 100%, but look, I don't want to work with you, but I love this idea and I want someone else to execute it. So I think that agencies also need to be open to that sort of agreement or arrangement. So clients are maybe able to be a little bit more honest in their dealings. I guess I may be a client, but I'm sort of also a creative. So I understand what it feels like to have your idea stolen, because half the time you don't know, and you don't know till it's executed. So it's really just about
Yeah.
being a good human being and not stealing, because it's theft, really.
Absolutely, I agree with you. So, Ruth, let me ask you: do you think that clients should be appraised?
Of course.
Yes.
Yes, actually, it's not something we do much. I don't even think well, let me not assume, but it's not something we do much in Nigeria,
Right.
especially because Nigeria, we hold the client is always right so dear to our hearts. So you do not want to say anything that will put them off, or that might sound like, oh, do you know better than the brand, the owner of the
Yeah.
brand, for
Yeah.
example.
Yep.
But I feel like it's so important because it's a relationship. And in every relationship, you have to keep evaluating where you're at, where you want to go. Even if it's based on just one project, you should give feedback. And even as agencies, we tend to do analysis, we tend to get feedback even from our consumers that we work with. So why can't you give that feedback to your client to help them better? So for me, it's super important. It's not something we do much because we're also scared of, oh, they'll say this agency, how can they talk to us like that? We're paying you, we gave you
Mm.
your retainer and all of that.
Or the client,
So
or the
why should you
client will
talk to
walk
us that way?
away.
But it's,
Mm. Yeah.
yes, so it's
Yeah.
fear of losing the client, but it's so important. It helps every partnership relationship.
Okay. Very quickly, we have questions. So our viewers, please feel free to send in your questions. Let us know your thoughts. We have a question here um, from Ifine Mac, right? He asks, can you please talk about timing on briefs? Oop. Some clients, if not most, have issues on time of delivery for briefs. So let me just give it, if I understand you correctly, let me just give a little context, right? So a lot of the times, right, clients will probably send a brief on Monday and they'll tell you they want feedback by Tuesday morning or Tuesday
By
afternoon, right?
Sunday
By
evening. Did
by
you?
Sunday evening, right? Elizabeth, help us. Tell us, why does this happen? Why do we get? I mean, why do agencies a lot of times? Why do they get very short times? To put the answer to the brief together? Because I mean, some briefs can be quite difficult, or you have to really think about it. So, why is the timing so short?
I guess the last minute requests. You also need to remember that the people that are typically sending you the briefs are not the bosses, and the bosses need magic done. However,
Mm.
once again, the onus is on the agency to push back, because you are not Superman, and it also just sort of it messes with the, would I say, the reputation of the agency, because if you deliver poor work, the client isn't going to remember that they only gave you 2 days because you agreed to do the work. So
True.
what you need to do is push back and say, unfortunately, the timeline you have given is too short. We were able to deliver in 7 working days. And
Yep.
if you're happy with that, great. If you're not happy with it, well, you know, it's, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, yeah,
Sorry.
once you agree to do the brief, you have to deliver the work, because they will just think that you actually
Sorry.
work 24 hours a day.
I think Franklin and Ruth have something to say.
I mean,
Ruth,
waiting.
Okay, so
I feel like
well, I
you have
believe
set me up.
No worries,
so.
no response to
I
you.
think for agencies, where it's maybe communication plan or things like that, giving a timeline, telling the client, for example, we can only work on this in 5 days or 1 week,
mm,
can work. But where I work at the moment, where it has to do sometimes with procuring items, and literally the RFQ is sent to like 10 vendors at the same time. And it's more like the fastest fingers. If you don't respond, they don't want to know. Maybe they're trying to get some specifications right to even help the client. They don't want to hear that. The first response they get is the vendor they're going with. Like, they don't even want to listen to that. You even find that, okay, maybe you try and get, there's a samples, for example, and maybe the samples have not arrived. They're fine with your pricing. They're just waiting for samples, but then someone just shows up and brings a sample from somewhere. And because they need to do an activation, maybe like next week, they just tell you, oh, sorry, I got a sample maybe early this morning or yesterday. And you were like, but I told you sample takes 7 days. What's the... So it can be a bit difficult to go back to the client to say, usually this will take about 2 weeks to deliver, because I mean, everybody is hustling in this Lagos. You'll be surprised.
Okay, Frankie, I know you had something to say very quickly.
Yeah, to the guy that asked the question, yes. I think one of the key things we can do if it's a retainer client, for example, we should insist on having a plan for every quarter.
Fantastic.
So if you know you're going to work with that client for at least a minimum of 3 months, discuss their objectives and don't go and sit down in the office waiting for a brief. You have to drive it as the consultant. I say, I understand we're going to work for 3 months and you're going to do something in August. Can I please, let's put together, just like the way you do a content calendar for a digital platform. If the client doesn't have, create a marketing plan. That is part of, you have to put on that hat. I understand you're waiting for some products from Malaysia and your factory is not on right now, but I know if it comes in, we're going to run. I need to put a marketing plan in place. Discuss those deals so that you can start all of the discovery and back ends and analysis, so that when it's time to run, all you have to put is the contract. And that will take days and a few weeks with the right people. Now, that is the ideal situation. It might not always happen that way. Where it doesn't always happen that way, but you have to insist, because that's where you come in as, the consultant. Then the other would be discuss or give at least 2 to 3 scenarios based on the brief. I did this, you want me to do 2-3 days, it is fine. Let's have a one-on-one call and a chat so I can discuss further. Scenario 1, we will deliver in 3 days as requested. We will bring in 2 or 3 extra people at extra costs. Should I go on? Because this is an express this thing. No, you have to deliver it within these 2 days. Then we will deliver 2 days, but the outcome would be 1, 2, 3. If the leg falls up while we're running, please do not blame us. If this. So let the client say, okay, I want scenario 3, I want scenario 2, and more often than not, they choose the best scenario. The thing is, if you unpack a brief very well and you understand your client, because if I were a market cap, I'll probably do the same thing, even though I know what's happening on the agency side, because I feel maybe they'll be complacent if I don't drive them. If I want it in 2 weeks, I will give them 2 days so that I meet my end goal. It's natural, it's instinctive. It just comes as part of training. But you have to also ensure you understand where they're going by saying, okay, I understand you want to have this. What is the outcome you want to achieve? You want to achieve outcome 1, outcome 2. If you want to achieve outcome 1, it will take me 3 days. If you want to achieve outcome 2, it will take me 1 day. And this is the reason why. And this is the reason why. And let the client say, I want this scenario.
Absolutely. I agree with you, because even for us in the events management industry, I mean, yes, we have clients' briefs. So when we send the client a brief, almost immediately, right, the client is asking you for budget, right? So it's not, you should already be putting your budget together when you are, putting your brief together. So it's not when the client calls you to say, send me your budget. You now say, actually, just wait. Because, decisions are almost made almost immediately, right? And I mean, as people say, as if they hot, right? So as it's hot, that's how you want to give it to them. So it's important, and I like that. It's important to be proactive. I think that's what you're trying to say. It's very, very important to be proactive. You don't always have to wait for especially if it's an existing client, right? You don't always have to wait for the client to say, okay, this is the brief. So you know what the clients push, what they push first quarter, what they push second quarter. You can even tell them, oh, we've actually put a marketing plan for you. This is it. right? Approve, disapprove, whatever, correct, and let's move. So, being proactive is very important. I'd like to know what our viewers think. I mean, do you guys agree with what we're saying? Are you with Liz? Are you with Franklin? Are you with Ruth? Or are you with me? Okay, so just to wrap up very quickly, right? Obviously, I mean, from our conversation, we know that it is important to build solid client agency relationships. I mean, some people have, some agencies have had clients, for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, right? So it's possible. But what would you say are the key elements necessary to build a sound client agency relationship? So Ruth, I'm going to start with you. Just very quickly, maybe you can give us 3 elements that you think are very key, and then we're going to go to Elizabeth and then Franklin. So Ruth.
So to have a sound client agency relationship, the first thing I would say is understanding from both parties. So from an agency, you need to really understand the client you're dealing with. You don't want to be caught in the middle of nowhere when a client says something about their brand, or you're just talking from the top of your head. You really need to do that research. Go through that process, find out information about the client, their competitors, and all of that. So first thing is understanding. Second one is professionalism. We need to be very, very professional. If we say maybe we push back, we need a week to deliver, we actually have to work towards getting it within 1 week. And if maybe a few days to the end of the 1 week, you find that there's a bit of a problem, you should just update the clients. They love to be updated. And same thing for agencies too. If there's a change in your strategy or your launch, you should update the agency and not make them go through the work. Then they present to you and you say, oh, by the way, last week we had a meeting and things have changed slightly, but then that slightly has disrupted the entire plan. And then thirdly, I would say build up your team. Have people on your team that they can call upon at any time. They can call on the copywriter or the ad director to speak on that client or on that brief, and they'll be aware of what they're saying. Not, oh, the creative director is not around, we don't know what's really happening, we're waiting for him to come, we don't have an idea. So your team should be solid. I think those are the 3 for me.
Okay, fantastic. Elizabeth, what says you?
I would say first of all, it's important to set clear objectives, outline expectations. Once you're able to do that, you also sort of figure out whether this agency client partnership will work, because you need a clear picture to start before you then start to go into processes. What processes are? Outline your timelines. If it's a big project, this is how long it takes. Medium projects, the timelines, who will work on the projects, how many times a week they'll come in, what the process for receiving the briefs are, what the templates are, all those things that we call admin, or at the start of the project. You need to sort of have those on lock, so there are no surprises, there are no letdowns. You can clearly see who is at fault or who has gone wrong, and then it's sort of easier for you to figure out how to go next. The second thing I would say is transparency and honesty on both parts, with timelines most especially. Like Ruth said, you need to give your clients updates. It's the most annoying thing for a client to have to reach out to an agency to say, okay, where's my work? You are going to deliver this, regardless of how great this agency is. I have had to do that on every single project, and it is tiresome.
Yeah.
Even when the agency is running late, I don't think clients have an issue with agencies running late. I think they have an issue with the fact that they haven't been notified.
Yeah, you have to communicate. Yep.
Communication is key. It's okay to run. It's okay to have to start from scratch. It's okay. As a client, it's fine. I would like to know that, we said we're going to deliver in 3 days. We need 2 extra days because we got to the end of this project and it wasn't as impactful as we thought. The clients will appreciate and respect that you are trying to give them even better work. So transparency, honesty, delivering on timelines, or just sort of, and then I think most important, which we always seem to forget, is kindness and empathy. On both parts, on the agency side and on the client side. At the end of the day, we're all human beings and we're all trying to come out with something great, because if the agency does great work, the client is happy, the client showcases this amazing work, the agency gets the props anyway, so in building the relationship, it's just important to remember that people are going through things, people have deadlines, people have pressure is being put on both sides. So in all of the crazy, we just sort of need to take a step back once in a while and be kind to each other.
Fantastic. I absolutely love that. Franklin is going to shake tables. Franklin, let's hear from you.
Yeah, it's important that on both sides, you're coming for value, right? So it's important that you have what I call create a shared agenda right from the onset when you sign the agency on and you would like to work with them as a client. Have a shared agenda in terms of how would we be working forward besides your contractual terms and the things you'll be delivering on a service or product level. Who am I going to be working with? What is your own perspective of how we would like to work with you? This is like what you call the soft issues. Can we be working 2 times, 3 times a week? Do you mind if I come to your office and work with maybe Franklin for 2 hours? Have that shared agenda so there are no shocks within a period of time. For example, trends can evolve, so things might happen like what happened, last year in terms of the pandemic. But it's again to always have those discussions. The brief is just an instrument. It's important to always have that human connectivity in terms of how you want to work. Put on the marketer's cap, you put on the agency's cap, and see how things evolve. By having that shared agenda, it helps, and it can be verbal thing. It helps set the tone. Secondly, it's good to what I would call commercial creativity.
Okay. What does that mean, Franklin? Really quickly, what does that mean? Commercial creativity. Oh, I think we lost Franklin.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. You said you were talking about commercial creativity. Yes,
commercial creativity. Why they come work with agencies? Because there has to be purpose. Whether it's you're doing a social media banner, or you're trying to do a TVC ad, or you want to put an ad in an e-commerce store, there's a reason for those. It's not creativity for creativity's sake. There's an end purpose for the client why they're paying not only a fee to you, but probably also purchasing, airtime space on those platforms. It has to deliver on something, which is the resultant effect, perhaps to move 2 or 3 bottles, so that people could perceive the brand or the product in a certain way. So always start from the outcome, right from the onset. Understand that whatever it is you're doing here is there's an intention the client wants to achieve. And if you have that from day one, everything you're doing on the shop floor, leads to a certain goal. And then thirdly, culture and consumer experiences. And it's on both ends. You might work with a Spotify, a Nestle, and a Netflix. Different cultures. You cannot use a copy and paste approach. There's a way these people work, there's a way these guys work, and there's a way these people work. You have to have the right team fit and chemistry with this kind of people interfacing, because you might be doing a good job, but I just don't blend with you. I don't understand why we don't connect. Maybe it's the way you smile, or me, I'm always fruitless. Ensure that the person connecting has a good chemistry, because that saves a lot of business. Understand the culture and dynamics of each organization, and vice versa. Understand the agencies might not work on Saturdays, but because I like Ruth and I would love to see Elizabeth every day, we can have a relationship where I can do 1 hour on a Saturday with her, and then she can share a perspective, and we have that agreement. That is why, again, it goes back to having a shared agenda from the beginning. And I think if we put those things in place, culture, and consumer experiences, which is important by understanding that everybody wants to connect with the customer. We want to sell a product, sell a service, or an ideal or an idea. Ensure that you understand and have, a thorough understanding of what's going on and what might likely happen, and always navigate and guide the client towards their attaining those goals. And I think we can have a good semblance of working relationship.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, like I've picked up so much from this conversation. I mean, from Franklin's chemistry pitch, which I feel we're going to start adopting as event architects, right? To Elizabeth talking about having that personal touch. That personal touch is so key. It's so important. After this, Elizabeth is in the UK, unfortunately.
Empathy.
So, Franklin and Ruth, I'll be inviting you guys out to drink. So,
Please, anytime. I'm available.
Oh, don't worry. So, it's so important to have that personal touch. Always think about, the fact that people are human beings. We all have feelings, right? So because I come to work every day smiling does not mean that my house is not burning at home, right? But what I've chosen to do is to leave my personal problems at the door and then face work, right? So it's so important for each and every one of us to be kind, to show empathy. And Ruth talked about understanding your client's business. I mean, and that is both ways as well, right? So a client should understand that, okay, this agency has this capacity, right? This and this, they can do this and this and this. So you already know their capacity. So it might just be a little unfair to now say, okay, let's dump a tech brief on their table when they don't really handle, such things. So it's so important. And of course, as agencies, we need to understand the business of our clients, right? How they work, what is their culture, even how they respond to emails, right? So, I mean, I've worked with quite a number of multinationals, and I can tell, like culture is different, right? So you have some clients almost immediately, when you send an email, they're responding back because that is what they're supposed to do. And then there's some people that will take 3 days, 24 hours. You have to understand, the culture and the business of your agency and your clients. This was such an amazing conversation. I mean, I feel like I still have more questions, but our time is fast spent. I want to say massive thank you to all my panelists, for taking time out on a weekday to have this conversation with us. And if you're just joining us for the first time, thank you so much. So at Event Architects, actually, this webinar is being put together by the Academy arm of our business, so Event Architects Academy. So yes, I know that you can hear events and academy. Yes, we train aspiring event planners, managers, producers. In fact, we train everybody along the event management value chain to become, experts at what they do. They become more professional. So even if you're in design or photography or videography, we have a course for you. And talking about our academy, we have our very first course coming up on the 10th of July. It's called the Event Management and Managers Blueprint course. I mean, myself and our CVO, Fumi Victor Kibo, we're going to be facilitating. So yeah, if you just want to come and look at my face, or if you want to have a conversation, or I mean, if you want to learn, because at the end of the day, we are impacting value, right? So if you want to learn, the basics, the fundamentals about event management, I mean, this course is for you. Stay tuned, to our social media platforms, because we would be giving out 2 free slots. Yep, 2 free slots. So yeah, I think that's gonna come up next week, maybe beginning of next week. So if you have friends, family, and they're interested in event management, yeah, refer them to our page. So I know that on your screen right now, you can see our handle. So that is the handle of the business page, which is we are Event Architects, but the academy is Events Architects Academy on Instagram. So stay tuned. Please follow us, comment, tell us how this webinar went, if you enjoyed it. And yeah, we are really looking forward to having more webinars like this and inviting such amazing people to our platform. Thank you so much again, everyone. Thank you to my tech team for making this possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a few
Thank
glitches
you.
along the way, but everybody was amazing. So thank you all. See you in our next webinar.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.